Okay, let's face it. You're probably here because you want to get a real handle on what's happening with AI, without getting totally swamped by jargon or feeling like you're missing the key points.
There we go.
And that's what this is all about, really trying to cut through some of that noise. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something pretty fascinating that came out of Nvidia GTC 2025.
hmm
It's about how we make AI agents, well, not just bigger, but actually smarter, more reliable.
Exactly. And we're really keying off the thinking of Guy Korland. He's the CEO of FalkorDB. He had some really compelling insights about a fundamental bottleneck in AI development.
Right, and the problem he laid out is honestly pretty easy to grasp. You think about even the most advanced AI, these LLMs everyone talks about, end of the day, what they put out is only as good as the data they get in.
That's it.
He used this great analogy, a factory production line. If you put bad raw materials in at the start, well, the final product won't be great, right? Doesn't matter how fancy the machines are.
That's a perfect way to put it. And for LLMs, those raw materials, that's the huge amount of data they learn from and need to access. So yeah, our goal today is to explore the solutions Korland was talking about. We'll get into why getting the right data to the AI is so critical.
Okay.
And then we'll dig into, the power of organizing that data using these structured knowledge graphs, especially using a method called graph retrieval augmented generation, GraphRAG.
GraphRAG, okay. And why should folks listening care about this?
Well, I mean,
Because understanding this stuff is kind of like getting a backstage pass, isn't it, to what's coming next in AI?
it really is. This isn't just small tweaks. It's about building a stronger foundation
Hmm.
for AI that could genuinely impact everything, apps, whole industries.
We're talking AI that hopefully makes fewer mistakes, gets you answers faster.
Yes, and potentially costs less to run too.
Okay, sounds good. So let's jump into that first big idea. The AI needs access to the right information.
Absolutely. Korland summed it up so well. Without good, clean, and fast data, you get no good inference.
Mhm.
Now, what's interesting is how clearly that points out something that sometimes gets overlooked in all the hype about huge models.
Right, like it doesn't matter how many billions of parameters an LLM has.
Exactly. If it's pulling from unreliable information or biased data,
The output's going to be unreliable too.
precisely.
For a while there, it felt like the whole game was just make the LLM bigger, scale it up.
That was the trend.
But Korland's saying size isn't everything. It doesn't automatically mean accuracy.
No, a giant model trained on flawed data. Still flawed.
So that brings us to our edge, retrieval augmented generation.
Yes, RG is so important here. You can think of it like giving the LM a library card. It lets the AI consult an external knowledge base right when it needs it.
Ah, okay. So it's not stuck with only what it learned during its initial training?
Exactly. It can actively go out, fetch relevant, current info, and then weave that into its answer.
Like giving it a fact checker on speed dial?
Kind of, yeah. Or a research assistant, like you said.
And this actually makes a difference in accuracy. I feel like I saw something about that.
Oh, a huge difference. There was research, I think, from OpenAI back in 2024 suggesting our gate systems can cut down those hallucination rates.
The made up stuff.
Yeah, the made-up stuff by almost 60%.
60%. Wow. Okay, that's not trivial.
Not at all. It's a fundamental shift in trustworthiness.
Hmm.
Think about using AI for, I don't know, medical info or financial advice. Accuracy is non-negotiable there.
No kidding. A 60% drop in errors is definitely a game changer. So ARGI is a big step. But then Korland brought up knowledge graphs. What are those exactly? How do they take this further?
Right, so knowledge graphs, they're basically structured networks of information. Think of it like a really detailed map. You've got entities, people, places, ideas as the cities.
Okay.
And the relationships between them, like works at, is located in, is a type of, those are the roads connecting the cities. It explicitly spells out how different pieces of info relate.
Gotcha. So it's not just a big pile of facts. It's organized, showing the connections.
Precisely. And Korland's point is that this structure helps the AI connect the dots in a way that LLMs alone sometimes struggle with.
How so?
Well, LLMs are great pattern matchers, right? But sometimes they might guess a connection that isn't real or miss a really important nuance in the context. Knowledge graphs, because they're explicit, give a much more reliable grasp of that context.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how does having this structured knowledge help, practically speaking, for developers, for us using the AI?
Several key ways.
Mhm.
First, much better contextual accuracy. The AI understands the relationship, so its answers are more precise, more aware of the nuances.
Okay, better context.
Second, querying is more efficient. Graph databases are built for finding interconnected data quickly. often better than traditional databases for these complex relationships.
Right.
And finally, speed, less latency. FalkorDB's own benchmarks showed GraphRAG could be up to 5x faster than traditional RAG in answering queries.
5 times faster,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah, pretty significant improvement.
Wow. Okay, so not just more accurate, but much quicker responses too. Now, Korland also talked about maybe shifting away from just giant LLMs towards using smaller, maybe more specialized LLMs with these knowledge graphs. Why is that better?
Well, his argument is that the race for ever larger LLMs is getting really inefficient. These huge models need massive computing power, which means big costs, lots of energy.
Right, they're expensive.
Very. So the idea is pair a smaller, more focused LLM, one that's good at a specific task with a really good knowledge graph. You could potentially get similar, maybe even better accuracy for that task, but way more efficiently, less overhead.
So working smarter, not just bigger.
Exactly, like using a specialized tool that knows exactly where to find the info it needs in the graph instead of one giant Swiss Army knife trying to do everything.
And there's evidence this approach works, like data.
Oh yeah. That OpenAI research also suggested that using these specialized smaller LLMs with GraphRAG could cut infrastructure costs by something like 40% compared to just scaling up the big models.
40% cost reduction. That's huge.
And FalkorDB's benchmarks also showed around a 70% drop in how long it takes to get an answer to the inference time.
70% faster and 40% cheaper. Okay, for anyone wanting AI tools that are quick and don't break the bank, that sounds like a massive win. Now, another angle he brought up, which is really interesting, is privacy. He talked about private knowledge graphs. What's that about?
Right, private knowledge graphs. Think of them as isolated memory stores just for one specific AI agent or user. Korland used this analogy of a really good personal assistant, right? Someone who gets to know you, your preferences, your history over time.
Okay, yeah.
For an AI to be truly helpful like that, it needs to remember things about you, your past searches, your likes, your context.
But wait, that sounds a little creepy. An AI holding all my personal stuff. Where's the privacy in that?
That's exactly the concern they address. Because these knowledge graphs are private, isolated, and dedicated to just you or your agent, that sensitive data stays confidential.
Ah, so it's like a separate, secure memory bank just for my interactions.
Precisely. It's not getting mixed into some giant central brain. This allows for that deep personalization, learning from your specific history, making better predictions for you. And because it's private and structured, it builds trust.
Okay, that makes sense. Personalized AI without sacrificing privacy, that's a pretty big deal as these tools get, everywhere. So we've mentioned ARG, knowledge graphs, and this term GraphRAG keeps popping up.
Yeah.
Can you just nail down the definition for us? What is GraphRAG?
Sure. Simply put, GraphRAG is where you integrate the structured knowledge graphs we've discussed with the large language models. The whole point is to use the strengths of both.
Huh.
You get the LLM's ability to understand and generate natural language, plus the knowledge graph's factual accuracy and structured context. And the goal is better accuracy and better speed.
And it tackles those AI hallucinations, the made-up facts, even more effectively.
Yes, that's a major benefit. Because it's grounding the LLM in the structured facts from the graph, it dramatically reduces the tendency to invent things. Some estimates suggest up to a 90% reduction compared to an LLM alone.
Yeah. 90%. Wow.
Yeah. And then, like we just discussed, you layer in the private knowledge graph aspect for that secure, long-term memory and personalization.
Okay, the picture's getting clearer. The future might be less about just building monster AI models and more about smarter systems that are really good at finding and using high-quality structured info efficiently.
With personalization and privacy built in.
Right. So where does FalkorDB, Korland's company, fit into actually making this happen?
Well, FalkorDB provides the underlying tech. They offer a multi-tenant RAG solution based on their own graph database.
Multi-tenant meaning?
Meaning multiple different AI apps or users can efficiently share the same underlying GraphRAG infrastructure. Makes it more scalable, more cost-effective. Their database is specifically designed to handle complex, interconnected data really fast in real time, which is exactly what you need for good GraphRAG.
And they claim this leads to fewer hallucinations, more accuracy.
That's the core value proposition, yes. Better grounding in facts via the graph.
And they provide tools to help developers build this stuff. It sounds complex.
They do. They have a GraphRAG SDK, a software development kit. Basically, tools to make it easier to connect their graph database with LLMs like GPT or Gemini. It helps developers use Cypher, that's a graph query language, to build and query the knowledge graphs, find the data they need.
Okay.
And they have other neat features too, like a code graph tool. Lets developers visualize their software code as a knowledge graph.
Oh, interesting. For finding bugs or optimizing.
Exactly. And a browser tool just for exploring and managing the data inside the FalkorDB graphs more easily.
So they're not just theorizing, they're building the infrastructure and the tools to actually implement these GraphRAG ideas.
Seems like it. They're tackling those core challenges of data quality and structure head on.
Well, this has been really, really insightful, a proper deep dive. So just to quickly wrap up the key takeaways for everyone listening. First, data quality is everything for reliable AI. Just making LLMs bigger isn't enough.
Right. Garbage in, garbage out still applies.
Then, knowledge graphs bring crucial structure and context. Combining them with LLMs using GraphRAG, that seems to be the key to more accurate, faster, maybe cheaper AI.
Definitely a powerful combination.
And we also touched on that shift towards smaller, specialized models and the huge importance of private knowledge graphs for personalization that respects privacy.
And understanding these trends, even just the basics, really helps you see where AI is likely headed beyond the headlines.
Absolutely. It helps you appreciate the fundamental shifts happening underneath. So as you see more AI news, think about the data, think about the structure, think about the graphs connecting things, and think about that balance between personalization and privacy, which kind of leads us to a final thought to leave you with. As AI gets woven deeper into our lives, how is this move towards structured knowledge and personalized AI memory going to change how we interact with tech?
Yeah, and maybe even change how we value our own data and what privacy really means in that future.
Definitely something to chew on.